I didn't go ice skating. I went to a party.
I just remember them like looking behind the camera like, and now it's like a fun, you know.
Sure, now it's funny.
I mean, who had the first kiss like that?
Right.
At the time, I wanted to kiss.
What really went on behind the scenes of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Did Tatyana Ali just expose shocking secrets about the show? Fans loved the fun and laughter on screen, but was everything as perfect as it seemed? From hidden conflicts to surprising truths, the 10 most disturbing secrets have come to light. Are you ready to find out what was really happening with the cast and crew? Let's delve in.
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down.
We all know and love the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme song, right? Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. But did you know that the show wasn't as perfect as it seemed? Behind the cameras, there was drama, secrets, and things that made the cast a little tense. One big secret, the show is based on someone else's life, not just Will Smith's. People think it's all about Will because his character is also named Will. But according to Will's memoir, the show was inspired by others. His co-star, Alfonso Ribeiro, who played Carlton, gave Will advice that changed everything.
Not gonna happen again, not to me. Carlton, I understand that.
And you might have heard about the drama between the cast members, especially Will and Janet Hubert, who played Aunt Viv in the first seasons. Will and Janet didn't get along behind the scenes. It got so bad that Janet was replaced after the third season, and she was very open about her feelings about it. The whole thing caused a lot of tension on set.
And those things never happened. She never left the set. I never left the set. We got along great. I think he was young, and he was inexperienced, and I think he simply had to...
So while we were all laughing at the jokes on the show, there was a lot going on that we didn't see. And even though it was a fun show, the cast members had real struggles. It wasn't always the fun and sunny life the theme song made it sound like. Crazy, right? The show was not just about the laughs, but also about the struggles and tensions behind the scenes.
Before I was getting in trouble with Uncle Phil, I was in trouble with Uncle Sam.
Did you know that Will Smith's name on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air almost wasn't his real name? It was all thanks to a guy named Alfonso Ribeiro. He pulled Will aside and said, "Listen, man, make sure your character has your real name, because that's what everyone's going to call you forever." Boy, was he right. Can you even imagine calling him anything else? But if the show had failed, Will Smith might have been remembered for a big TV flop instead. Now, where did this idea for the show come from? It started in 1990 with Benny Medina, a music manager who wanted to create a TV show based on his own life. He had grown up in East LA, but his life changed when he moved in with a rich family in Beverly Hills. But Benny didn't want to tell the usual story of a poor black kid living with a rich white family. Instead, he made the family rich and black, showing how class and social issues could play out in a different way. And just like that, the Fresh Prince was born.
Benny Medina is the real-life Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, except he actually went from Watts to Beverly Hills. Same basic concept, way shorter distance.
Believe it or not, Will Smith didn't take the role just for fame or fun. He was actually running from the IRS. Will had spent a lot of money and forgot to pay his taxes, ending up with a huge $2.8 million debt. After his rap career with DJ Jazzy, Jeff hit a rough spot. Signing up for the show was a way to escape his money problems.
Me and Jeff had come out with our smash hit, Parents Just Don't Understand. We made a bunch of money. We won a Grammy. Album was triple platinum. I had motorcycles and cars. I called the Gucci store in Atlanta, and I was like,
Hey, will y'all close it down if I bring my friends?
and I'm smiling, but that's stupid.
Back in the 90s, Will Smith thought he was set for life. His rap group DJ Jazzy, Jeff, and the Fresh Prince had just released their album, He's the DJ, I'm the Rapper, and it went triple platinum. He spent big on cars, clothes, and all the luxury a young star could dream of. But there was one thing Will didn't take care of: his taxes. When their next album came out, it didn't do well at all. It went double platinum, but that wasn't enough. The follow-up album flopped hard and money got tight fast.
We released our next album, and it was like a flop. It was a tragedy. It went like double.
One day, Will went to an event at the Arenal Hall with his girlfriend. She suggested he tag along, and that's where he met Benny Medina. Benny had a big idea, a TV show. He pitched it to Will, but Will wasn't sold on the idea at first. He had never acted before. But Benny said, "Hey, I want you to meet Quincy Jones," who was producing the show with him.
Me in and introduced me to Quincy. I'm like, "Hey, Q, what's up, man?" He said, "Hey, man, you know, I saw your music videos. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. Tell me your rap name again." They call me the Fresh Prince. All right, good. That's what we're gonna call the show.
At first, Will wasn't excited about acting. But then he found himself at a wild party at Quincy Jones's house, and everything changed. Benny introduced him to Quincy, and they talked about his music videos. Quincy liked Will's style and said, "Let's call the show The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air." Quincy handed Will a script for a TV pilot and told him, "I need you to audition for this now." Will wasn't prepared, but Quincy insisted.
And he handed me a screenplay for a failed Morris Day pilot. Like, I don't have the time. So I need you to do this. I need you to go ahead, take a few minutes, take 10 minutes, study the script, and I'm gonna clear all the stuff out the living room, and we're gonna have everybody sit down in the living room. We're gonna do an audition.
Quincy told Will, "I can set up a meeting with NBC for you. You just need to give me 10 minutes. Will thought it sounded crazy, but agreed. They rushed to meet the big people at NBC, and Will was so impressive that the head of NBC offered him a contract right there in the limo. The lawyers even started drawing up the deal on the spot, but Will wasn't exactly rolling in cash at the time. Quincy joked, "Will, do you have a lawyer?" Will laughed and said, "I'm broke. If I had a lawyer, they'd owe me money." It was a funny moment, but Will was serious about making it big.
Or you could take 10 minutes right now and you can change your life forever. And I was like, F it then. Yes, give me 10 minutes.
3 months later, they were filming the pilot for The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It seemed like everything was going smoothly, but Will's journey to fame wasn't as easy as it seemed. The IRS, the tax people, took 70% of his paycheck for the next 3 years. That's a huge chunk of money to lose. But even though Will got his big break, it wasn't all fun and games. Behind the scenes, the writer's room at The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't exactly friendly either. According to a 2017 article about writer Genji Kohan, the work environment was filled with constant fights and long, tiring hours. The staff was often at each other's throats, making it a tough place to work. The writer's room was described as toxic and chaotic. The making of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air wasn't as perfect as it looked on screen. Behind the scenes, things were pretty messy. Will Smith's bodyguard and cousin were actually part of the writing team. This caused a lot of tension because there were constant clashes between the writers. And if that wasn't enough, there were some cruel pranks too. One time, someone even peed in a co-worker's tequila bottle. Yikes! There was also drama involving one of the writers, Kohan, who was one of only 2 female writers and the only white woman in the room. Sadly, she was given an awful nickname that made fun of both her race and religion. It was clear that things were tense and not very friendly behind the scenes, but the real drama was between Will Smith and Janet Hubert, the original Aunt Viv. On the show, Aunt Viv was Will's biggest supporter, but off-screen, the two didn't get along. Will was young and still learning, and he wanted to be the star. Janet felt like he treated her badly. This led to a huge feud that lasted for years. In fact, Janet didn't return for season 4, and there were rumors that Will thought she was too hard to work with. For a long time, they didn't speak to each other.
Legally, I'm not allowed to talk about it. But hey. Why not? Basically, at the end of the day, it was crazy.
Alfonso Ribeiro, who played Carlton on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, shared that the cast felt like one big family. He had a great time working with everyone, including Will, Tatyana, James, and Karen. However, he mentioned that Janet Hubert, who played Aunt Viv, wasn't as close to the others.
Big wheels keep on turning, bright fire keeps on burning.
According to Alfonso, There were times on set when Janet would get upset with people. By the second season, the cast felt that her behavior was unacceptable, and it caused tension.
Basically, at the end of the day, it was crazy.
But Janet Hubert has a different story. She says that what Alfonso described was far from the truth. Janet insists she was never difficult to work with. She was always professional on set and never left the show. In fact, she believes that Will Smith, the star of the show, needed to win in the public eye, which led to a lot of false stories about her. Janet says that she felt betrayed and hurt by the lies. Janet revealed that when her father and brother passed away, she reached out to Will and the cast, hoping they would clear her name and tell the world that she was not difficult. She felt she had been unfairly portrayed and was waiting for someone to step forward and help her. Unfortunately, no one did. When Daphne Maxwell-Reid took over the role of Aunt Viv on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, fans noticed something big had changed. The Aunt Viv they loved was no longer the same. The original Aunt Viv, played by Janet Hubert, was strong, ambitious, and a big part of the show's main storylines. She was the driving force in her family's life, always there to guide her children and support her husband. But after Daphne Maxwell-Reid stepped in, the character became different. The new Aunt Viv seemed much calmer, even passive. She wasn't as involved in important family matters. Rather than pushing her husband Phil to follow his political dreams, she seemed tired and less interested. The fiery Aunt Viv we once knew had turned into a quieter, more background character. Fans didn't like this change. It felt like the spirit of the character was gone. In 2020, Janet Hubert finally opened up about what happened. In an emotional interview with Will Smith, she shared her side of the story. Hubert revealed she wasn't fired like many people thought. She was offered a deal that didn't work for her. When she turned it down, the producers replaced her with Daphne Maxwell-Reid. On top of this, Janet was going through a hard time in her personal life, including an abusive marriage. She explained how the stress made everything worse, especially when people started calling her difficult. Janet Hubert admitted that these words hurt her deeply. Being labeled as difficult in Hollywood, especially as a dark-skinned black woman, was damaging to her career. But she also said it was important to talk about these issues and move forward. After years of tension, it was a relief for her to finally share her truth.
Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down.
When Will Smith admitted he was struggling with his sudden rise to fame, it was a moment of real honesty. For fans, it felt like watching two big stars finally make peace after years of drama. This happened during a special 30th anniversary celebration of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Will said, "I could not do a 30-year celebration of the show and not celebrate you. Celebrate your contribution to this show. Celebrate your contribution to my life." He was talking about his co-star, James Avery, who played Uncle Phil on the show. It was clear that Will felt deep gratitude for everything James had taught him.
That's the biggest load of bull I've heard since I left the farm.
Behind all the fun and laughs on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, there were moments that hit hard. One of the most powerful episodes was Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse. In this episode, Will's father, who had been absent for 14 years, came back into his life. The reunion was tense, especially between Will and Uncle Phil, who had been like a father to him. Things really got heated when Will's dad let him down again. Will's pain was so real, and the words he said were unscripted. He poured out years of hurt, talking about how his father had abandoned him. It wasn't just acting. Will's emotions were raw and real. Some people think Will's performance in this scene was even more powerful because he had a difficult relationship with his own dad. But the truth is, Will actually had a good relationship with his father. His parents just wanted him to go to college and not focus on a career in rap. The real reason this scene is so emotional is because of Will's incredible talent as an actor. He made the lines come to life, even though they weren't about his own life. His raw emotion made the entire audience cry, and it's still remembered as one of the most emotional moments in TV history. None of this would have been the same without James Avery. He was the heart and soul of those emotional scenes, especially the one where Uncle Phil comforts Will after his dad walks out. It was a moment that not only showed Will's talent, but also the strength of the relationship between Will and Uncle Phil, both on and off screen.
And I've worked hard to open doors for you. It doesn't make you any less of a man.
When you watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it's clear that the chemistry between the cast is special. But behind the scenes, there was something even more powerful, a deep bond of friendship and respect. One of the most touching stories is about James Avery, who played the beloved Uncle Phil. His relationship with the cast, especially Will Smith, was a big part of why the show felt so real.
When you got this alleged confession from these two young men, did they have a lawyer present? No.
Will Smith has shared a moment from one of their rehearsals that shows just how much James cared about helping his co-stars. Will was struggling with his lines during a scene. He was nervous and frustrated because he wanted to get everything right. But James, who was known for his calm and wisdom, saw that Will was struggling. He told him to relax and said, "It's already in there. You know what it is." James reminded him not to act around him, but to act with him. It was a simple but powerful piece of advice that helped Will regain his confidence. After the scene, when they finished the take, James gave Will a hug and whispered in his ear, "That's acting right there." Those words meant a lot to Will, who looked up to James both as an actor and as a mentor. It wasn't just about the show. James was there for Will and the whole cast in ways that went beyond acting. He was like a real-life father figure. James Avery's role on the show went far beyond playing Uncle Phil. He was the glue that held the cast together, offering guidance, wisdom, and support. His warm, fatherly presence helped create a family-like atmosphere on set, and it showed on screen. Will Smith often called his co-stars his siblings, and it's clear that James played a huge role in making that bond feel real. Sadly, in 2013, James Avery passed away, and it left a hole not only in the hearts of fans, but in the hearts of everyone who worked with him. The cast and crew of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air have always spoken highly of James. They remember him as a teacher, a friend, and a big teddy bear. His guidance and love for his co-stars were undeniable.
I see every great thing a man could possibly want in a woman.
Will Smith often spoke about how much James meant to him. He was not just a big, strong man physically, but also a rock emotionally and spiritually. Even after all these years, James Avery's presence is still remembered fondly. Uncle Phil wasn't just the tough dad we saw on TV. He was much more behind the scenes. He gave Will guidance and care in ways we didn't always see. Will has shared how much he loved and respected James, both on and off the set.
There, I'm going to tie this place up with so much litigation that your grandchildren are going to need lawyers.
But let's lighten the mood a little with a fun story. Did you know Will Smith once tried to ask Karen Parsons, who played Hillary Banks, out on a date? Yes, even Will couldn't resist trying his luck. In his memoir, Will revealed that when they were filming the show, he made a move on Karen. But Karen quickly turned him down. She said, "Leave me alone." And Will later admitted that she was right. It was probably for the best. Imagine how awkward things would have been if their romance didn't work out. Plus, if they had gotten together, who knows? Maybe Will wouldn't have gone through all the entanglements he did in his life. But that's another story for another time. Thankfully, Karen and Will kept their relationship friendly, which made working together much easier. Will said later that this was the right decision. Now here's another surprising fact. Did you know The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was almost canceled? Yes, after season 4, NBC decided to pull the plug on the show. The episode, The Philadelphia Story in 1994, was originally meant to be the series finale. Fans were heartbroken when they heard the show might be over, but the fans weren't ready to say goodbye. They sent tons of letters to NBC and to Will Smith, begging for the show to continue. The response was so huge that NBC had no choice but to bring the show back for 2 more seasons. The love from the fans kept the show alive. However, even though the show returned for 2 more seasons, things were changing behind the scenes. By season 6, Joseph Marcel, who played the iconic butler Jeffrey, decided to return to the UK. With his departure, the cast knew it was time to wrap things up for good. Interestingly, the writers had already prepared 3 different endings to the show, just in case it had to end earlier. But thanks to the fans, we got 2 more seasons and an unforgettable goodbye.
I didn't go ice skating. I went to a party.
Tatyana Ali, who played the sweet and shy Ashley Banks on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, had one of the most awkward moments of her life while filming her first real kiss. This special moment was supposed to be private and sweet, but instead it turned into something she wished to forget. In a 2018 interview with Us Weekly, Tatyana talked about how this important moment became a funny disaster. Imagine this. You're about to kiss someone for the first time, and instead of it being a quiet, personal moment, there are huge cameras around you and your co-stars are watching. That's exactly what happened to Tatyana. Her co-stars, Alfonso Ribeiro, Carlton, and Corinne Parsons, Hillary, showed up on set that day, even though they weren't supposed to be there. Tatyana wasn't expecting them to watch such a private scene, and their presence made her even more nervous.
To remember everybody, people that were not involved in the scene at all, coming to set that afternoon to see.
Oh no!
And I just remember Karen Parsons, who played Hillary Banks, Karen, Alfonso, just like.
Tatyana remembered feeling uncomfortable during the scene, saying, "I just remember Alfonso and Corinne standing there with the cameras. And on sitcoms, the cameras are huge. I just remember them looking behind the camera. Who has their first kiss like that?" She felt so embarrassed that she even said, "I wanted to die."
I just remember them like looking behind the camera, like. And now it's like a fun,
Sure, now it's funny.
I mean, it was a first kiss like that.
Right.
At the time, I wanted to.
Over time, though, Tatyana was able to laugh about the experience. By 2013, she felt more comfortable talking about relationships. In a lighthearted interview with HuffPost, she joked about how her views had changed and even called one-night stands guilty pleasures, comparing them to her love for bread pudding. When The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air ended after season 6, everyone knew it was time to say goodbye. The show had its ups and downs, and by the last season, ratings had dropped. But even though it seemed like the show's story was over, it still left a huge mark on TV history. For years, people thought the idea of a reboot was a joke. Will Smith himself even joked that it would happen when hell freezes over. But surprise, surprise. In 2019, a reboot idea didn't seem so far-fetched anymore. It all started when Morgan Cooper, a filmmaker, made a fan trailer for a new, darker version of The Fresh Prince. He called it Bel-Air, and it showed a more serious side of Will's story. The trailer went viral and got everyone's attention, including Will Smith's. Will was so impressed that he decided to bring the idea to life. By 2020, streaming platforms like Netflix, HBO Max, and NBC's Peacock all wanted the show. Peacock won, and on September 8, 2020, they ordered 2 seasons of Bel-Air. Fast forward to today, and the reboot is now in its 3rd season. Fans are loving how the characters from the original show have been given a fresh, modern twist, but the heart of the show remains the same. It's safe to say that this reboot has done much better than expected, and it has continued the legacy of the original show in a whole new way. Who would have thought The Fresh Prince would return to TV after all these years?